The city breathed in broken whispers. Leora walked through its remains as though passing beneath the ribs of some vast, fallen creature. Frost webbed across every surface, delicate but unyielding, turning the cracked stones into pale mosaics that glittered weakly under a colorless sky. The air smelled faintly of cold metal and extinguished fires. Buildings hunched along the street like exhausted sentinels. Once they had been bright with windows and movement. Now they slumped inward, glass shattered, balconies twisted, their shadows stretching long and thin like warnings. Nothing stood quite straight anymore, as if the world itself had grown tired and begun to lean. The river cut through the central square, a sluggish gray ribbon barely remembering how to move. Its surface was dull and heavy, carrying no reflection. Even the sky refused to appear in it. Leora watched a fragment of ice drift by, turning slowly as though searching for a season that no longer existed. Shadows pooled where they should have dissipated. They lingered with purpose, gathering in quiet folds along the edges of walls, gliding with the faintest suggestion of shape. Sometimes Leora felt them brush the hem of her coat, a soft, probing touch, as if they were checking whether she was ready to be claimed. People moved toward the pods scattered across the plaza, their footsteps muffled by frost. The pods stood like pale monoliths, their surfaces humming faintly with an inner light that seemed neither warm nor cold, simply inevitable. Those approaching them carried their stories visibly, shoulders curved from private battles, eyes hollowed by too many sleepless nights, hands trembling or clenched or limp. They moved like people who had run out of alternates. There was no speaking, no bargaining, only a collective quiet surrender. Then movement that didn't match the rest. A boy slipped into Leora's line of sight, weaving through the crowd with uncertain steps. He couldn't have been more than 13. His clothes were thin, patched, borrowed from a time when people still traded things instead of memories. Yet he held himself with an alertness the others lacked, his gaze scanning everything as if gathering evidence. He clutched a tattered notebook to his chest, its corners softened and frayed, pages poking out at strange angles. It was clearly loved, Macon, or needed, perhaps both. The boy did not walk like the others. Where they drifted, he chose. Where they folded inward, he stood at a slight angle to the world, curious, defiant, unwilling to hand his mind over to whatever waited inside the pods. There was something in him that had not yet been broken. Leora felt the shift inside herself. A flicker of recognition, or maybe hope, though she was careful with that word. It had become dangerous to hope. She slowed her steps, letting the boy drift ahead but not disappear from her sight. The air around him felt different, like the held breath before a story begins. Her gaze slid back to the pods. To most, they looked like salvation, gleaming capsules promising rest, quiet, an end to devastation. But Leora knew better. She had watched too many people step inside. The pods did not erase burdens. They reflected them, amplified them, drew out the truths people whispered only to themselves. Entering a pod was not escape, it was reckoning. And yet every day, more people approached with bowed heads and trembling hands, ready to offer their last unspoken truths to the strange, luminous cocoons. Leora stayed at the edge of the square, where the frost was thin and the shadows moved more cautiously. She wrapped her coat tighter around herself, though it did little against the cold creeping inward from the world. Part of her wanted to join the procession, to stop thinking, to stop remembering, to be carried somewhere else, even if that place wasn't truly freedom. But another part, the part she relied on, the part that had not yet dimmed, told her she wasn't meant to step inside. Not yet, maybe not ever. So she settled into stillness, watching the boy, watching the pods, feeling the world teeter on the edge of something vast and unfinished.